Hello, welcome to Cinemondo with Kathy and Melanie from Per Daisy Reviews. Wow. Kill.
Kill.
Okay. So we're
Kill really killed. I'm telling you.
Kill was a lot of kill. And so we've been getting a lot of requests because this movie's kind of notorious because it got a lot of press in the Western, entertainment journals, and everybody's been talking about it. It's like by Lionsgate is releasing in America.
Yeah.
Like they have a lot of faith in it. So
Right.
I was very excited to see it. And there's John Wick, whispers of John Wick around it a lot, which is, which means nonstop violence, which is the genre of John Wick now.
Yeah.
Like
the barest thread of a setup and then just nonstop.
Exactly.
So yeah, it premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival and was an audience favorite there. And that's where the buzz began. It also appeared at the Tribeca and New York Film Festival. But this weekend, a big holiday weekend in the United States, the July 4th weekend, is when it premiered wide in theaters. Yeah, it's more of a Hollywood length of a movie. It's only 2 hours. Yes. There's no songs, there's no fluff, it's just like a little bit of setup and now we're straight to the end. Now, if you want a spoiler-free review, I have done one on my channel. This one is, we're going to really get into it. We're going to talk about spoilers. We're going to talk about major plot points. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, watch it and come back later. Okay, because you have to watch it. I mean, that's the baseline right there. Like you know,
watch. Yes. So, and I mean, honestly, with a movie like this, who lives and who dies is almost beside the point because it's all about how do they live and survive.
Okay. Although you did text me in the middle and you were like,
sure, I was surprised. It did surprise me. That is hard to do because with movies like this, especially horror and action like this was being promoted as like the most violent film ever made, and they were leaning into it. They want people to know it was violent. They had a red band trailer that showed graphic violence. So a lot of times they'll hold back on that in trailers because they want to get people in the theater, and they're afraid if they go too far into it being like extreme violence, they'll repel people. But not for this one.
Nope. Well, I will say, a friend, I sent the trailer to a friend because I told her how much I liked it, and she's like, yeah, I was out the minute the knife went through the guy's eye. I'm just like, come on, like any regular Telugu movie, you'd see that. Like,
come on. Oh.
I mean, so I have seen a lot of, I do like a good machete fight in a Telugu film.
Yes.
I'm just going to admit that about myself. Okay. Yes. I do like it. Arms getting chopped off or whatever happens. Okay. I'm ready.
That's machetes for you.
But this movie, oh my God. Like even I mean, I don't know where I was seeing it. People weren't aware or whatever. I was alone in the theater. I was yelling out. Like I was just yelling out in the theater by myself because things would happen. I'd be like, oh my God.
There was a lot. I mean, especially big like that, it was very visceral. It's like just, and I appreciate that they didn't try and slow it down too much by trying, we need more plot here. Like they were just like, we're just making an action movie. We're going to show a bunch of stunts. You guys just enjoy the ride, literally on the train with the stunts. And there's something to that. And I think they did the same thing with John Wick, where it's like, we have a bare setup, a revenge plot. That's all you really need. And then it's just nonstop. And so if you enjoy John Wick, I think you will very much enjoy this.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because literally it's like a runaway train that you're just it's just nonstop action. Now the initial setup is that our soldier hero gets a frantic phone call message from his girlfriend. Oh my God, my dad's making me get engaged to another guy. Like the setup of almost every Indian film ever. Okay, so like
ticking clock.
Yeah.
Ticking clock.
And so you're like, okay, it's gonna be the other guy's family. No, that's not. I mean, that's just kind of a plot to get our hero and heroine sort of together and yet not really together, but they're on a train. And then the mayhem happens because an unending series of thieves are trying to rob everybody on the train. And I'm like, how many guys do they need to do this? Really?
I think they said 40. Like how many bandits? 40 people. Bandits get on a train, and then when you divide it, you guys are getting like $10 a piece. It was not a very efficient plan, but it did account for a lot of headcount.
Kathy, have you ever seen Train to Busan?
Yes.
Okay.
They were already dead.
Okay. These robbers were not zombies, but it was almost like that. It was like, there's another one.
It
And
was.
then there's another one. And then there's another one coming from the other train car.
It's so good. I know. And I love, like, this was directed by, let me see. So this is directed by Nikhil Nagesh Bhat.
Yes.
And he apparently has said in the press that this was based on kind of a true story. I mean, I'm sure it was scaled up, but he said he was on a train and some thieves got on the train and created havoc. And he was kind of like, there's a movie in this. See, that's how filmmakers think. It was like, this is terrifying. No, this would make a good. I think that kind of brings in, like, he was bringing in all the things that I think were unique in this movie. You have this very contained space.
Yes.
It's shooting through on a railroad so nobody can get off. You know, you can't. And why they can't talk to the engineer in the front, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I mean, these thieves are pretty tech savvy because they have a guy that's jamming everybody's cell phones.
That's right.
And somehow they've disabled the emergency brake.
Doesn't matter.
Movie reasons.
That's just the setup. You just it's called suspension of disbelief. Just know that this train can't be stopped. They can't get off, and everyone's stuck there with whatever.
And they can't call for help. They can't call for help. Yeah.
So it's isolation horror, basically.
And you can't call each other from one train car to the next.
Can't warn anyone.
You can't warn anyone. No. Yeah.
I
mean, my husband I was describing to him, and he's like, so basically it's Die Hard on a train. I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
Or John Wick on a train, because, you know, I mean, at least Die Hard, he had moments of peace. This guy didn't get a break for 1 second. What I thought was a great debut, apparently, was Lakshya, who plays our main character.
Right.
And he was fantastic because they kind of start off with showing he's capable. He's a soldier.
Yeah.
He has to run home to rescue his girlfriend from an unwanted marriage. So he's doing that.
And so he didn't get the notice in time to save the girlfriend from having to go through the engagement. So I think that's what he felt guilt about, that he was, because he was doing his, his duty. And so no phones, whatever. Right. And it's only when he gets back and he's like, oh, crap, I got to run.
You look guilty. But maybe because he wasn't in time. But anyway, so he was great in this because he had a strength, but he also had kind of a cool vulnerability. And that's a hard thing to do both ways. And he had a very
when he's watching certain things happen and his face is just crumpling and he's just, whoa. Yeah.
That was so good. And then we had, as the fiance, she was great too, Tanya Maniktala.
Yeah.
She was adorable. She had these huge eyes. So sweet. And she was really capable too. She wasn't like a total wimp. She was fighting back.
No. She was kind of a new face to me. I looked her up afterwards. She did A Suitable Boy. And I think she did another Netflix movie-ish something. Anyway, but still new face to me, basically. And I thought, while her part wasn't for the entire movie, she did well for the minutes that she had. And that was what Kathy texted me about. She's like, what? Like,
I went, what the fuck? But so there is a formula to these films. Now in John Wick, I thought, they killed a puppy and his wife, but they killed a puppy. And so that's been his motivating, through line through all the movies, is that he's getting revenge, he's super capable. Same thing's kind of happening here. So we weren't sure yet. I mean, it stood at first as it started as like, here come all these guys, he's protecting all the people and his family and the girl and their families, and that's what the movie's going to be. That is how it was set up. He's going to protect them from these terrible people. And at that point, the violence was pretty bad, but they pulled their punches a little bit. It wasn't too bad. It was like, someone gets stabbed in the back. You don't really see it, or, a knife, or you don't really see it. The turning point comes. So I love it too, because not only did the turning point come, you wanted the turning point to come. So as we know, these are big spoilers. What's happening? Really brutal, terrible murder by the main bad guy of his
Raghav Juyal as Fani. Like, he's sort of that out of control psychopath in the group, and everybody else is like, seriously, you did this to a guy? Like, you can tell this isn't the first time that he has screwed up something by just being completely off the wall and doing shit, and they're just like, again, but not only does he have to kill the girl because she, I don't know, whatever, she talked back to him or whatever. She had the audacity to try to protect herself, but he has to kill her in front of her boyfriend and like right in the neck.
The neck, the back, the stomach. He stabs her 3 times. Then on top of everything, throws her off the train.
Yeah,
he just sees the train. So that was terrifying. And so when you see that, all that's happening, and I was like, what? Because you just don't expect them to cross that line. And they did, because they made her
Yeah.
so good. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe they did it. That's point for that.
Like, so everybody is like, but then basically Lakshya, it's like berserker mode. It's engaged,
I love it.
Okay.
You see his
because
head.
it's like you just like
his head comes up and the movie changes.
Like the steam is coming out of his ears. Like it was like a cartoon. Like you're saying, like the red. Like you're
like,
just like.
And so at that point, you want some shit to go down. You're like, they need to just rip this guy's head off. Like it was like, oh my God, I cannot believe he went and did that. So at this point, the movie not only ramps up the plot revenge wise, the violence gets a lot more graphic and extreme. So that was kind of nice, because you're not expecting that. You're like, oh yeah, I can take it as action, whatever. They bring the gore.
I've seen a machete film. Oh yeah. And then he pummels somebody's head. He pummels somebody's head. I mean, I've seen somebody get knocked out with a fire extinguisher. Everybody's seen that.
It gotta hurt.
But then
that wasn't enough.
And over until his head is not shaped like a head is supposed to be shaped anymore, folks. And not only that, there's a pool of blood and brains.
Yes.
That is a recurring motif then for the rest of the film, because people keep having to step over the blood in the brains. Like the body's moved, but the blood and brains remain. And we're reminded of that scene over and over and over again.
I know, and I can't help but laugh, because technically it's some really dark humor, but it was humor, because they come running in, they look down, they go, oh, and they kind of step over. That's the running gag.
Every time it's like the bad guys are like, oh my God.
They're like, oh, this is not good. I also really enjoy. I say enjoy. We're saying enjoy on a pure cinematic level. It's just, you got to take the movie on its own terms, and we're doing that. So most violent film ever made, apparently. A lot of people have claimed it. This was pretty damn close. They had a great scene where he takes one of the bad guys, wraps him, ties him up in like a sheet, and binds him, and kind of has him hanging out the door of the train, and it's like, here's your choice. You can do this and live, or you can do this and lose your legs and still live, but you won't have any legs, and it will not be good. And the guy was like, what?
Right.
I have to say, now, considering that is a real scary thing to think about, is hanging off the train and getting hit by the train or destroyed by the train, I'm amazed they did not pay that off eventually. Like that felt like, here's the setup. This is what could happen. And then they kind of pull him in and they don't do it. And I'm like, oh, what's going to happen later? The main bad guy part of it. Don't do it. Like what I thought was really strange. They did have a great, the only payoff close to that was toward the end, everyone's like, I'd rather just take my chances and jump off this damn train. So they're all running and jumping. And the one guy behind him gets, oops, he all gets splattered with like blood. So you're like, yeah, that's why people got all excited. That's why people don't jump off trains, because that's what happens. It's like you can be killed by this guy on the train, or you can be killed by the train. There's no surviving it. So I thought that was kind of a funny gag too. So that was the closest we got to the train actually doing any damage.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But yeah, so that was that. So yeah. Okay. Smashed head. We had, let's see, we had the knife in the eye. Very graphic. Knife in the eye. You gotta hit him somewhere. My only other tiny disappointment was finally everybody's gone. Main bad guy's the only one left. It is a one-on-one fight. Now our hero has been stabbed like multiple times. Yeah. And he's just still going. He's limping and looking bad, but he's still going. The bad guy, I feel like he did not get his comeuppance. Sure, he got killed. He got hit with a sledgehammer a few times, but I really thought, considering...
Well, I was waiting for the sledgehammer to hit him in a certain spot, which I think it did.
It did. But I was expecting more flathead, or throw him out of the train and see him get just annihilated.
I mean, that's when I felt like they pulled back to,
yes.
Okay, it has to be like an Indian movie, and this guy just has to be punched in the head until he finally just dies,
Yeah, which I was like, I mean, considering how terribly other people died, it felt like the main bad guy really needed to have it coming. I know it was like his, first hand on hand.
I mean, it's like the guy, I still can't remember if it was his uncle or his dad was the one that gets the lighter fluid shoved in his mouth and then his whole head set on fire. So like that would have been the poetic justice for our main guy. Right?
Exactly. I mean, I feel like we deserved a better death for the main terrible psycho bad guy. And we kind of got it off easy. He just got beat up. He got beat up.
He did not have a quick death, but still.
It wasn't quick, but it was still less than 5 minutes.
Well, at that point, our hero didn't have a lot left in him. I mean, it just...
No, it was everyone's watching. They're stuck behind the glass. Everybody's like, he's killing that guy. So, that's the spoilers. But basically, we get to see in very well choreographed, nonstop choreographed action inside a very contained space. They did a great job with speed. It was very stressful through the windows. We had lots of how do you get past people and jump and use all the stuff inside this tiny narrow space. I loved all the available weapons. There happened to be a lot of machetes and knives on the train. Okay, that's fine. So we had a lot of that. But I liked how they were using the space as part of the actual action, like jumping off of walls, jumping out of, beds, like pretending to be dead in a pile of bodies inside a little storage area, just crazy stuff
I mean,
like that.
using it's like metal bunk beds and using that to, bash somebody's head or whatever. Right.
Real
I
smart.
mean, I never felt like sometimes you see an action film and you're like, I have no idea what's going on. Right.
Like, don't know where anybody is.
Right. It's not well choreographed. You don't. And I always felt like I know what's happening. I know where we are. I know who is doing what. It was so well choreographed. It was so well done. Because again, tight space, right? There's no room to like fling somebody, in anywhere or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Like it was all very close quarters, and kudos to them. Like the filmmakers really made it continually exciting and kept upping the ante and ramping up the adrenaline. And it was.
And you always knew, like I said, the camera always knew where it was supposed to be so that the action flowed a certain way. And that sounds like kind of a dumb thing, but you will not believe how many movies get that wrong. Where you're like, wait, what? Yeah. I also liked how toward the end, the fight was great where the guy had 2 knives in each hand. And you're kind of anticipating as you're watching this, what you would be doing. You see him take the sledgehammer and he hits the guy and he's holding the knife, but then he keeps forgetting about that second hand. And so walking and then bam, the guy would get in there and get in there. Like that was really smart too, because he's trying to stop the main action and then gets it in the side with a knife. So that was a cool little stunt too. Very simple, but very effective. And it was disturbing to you too, because you too were like, block that knife. Oh shit, I just got stabbed. Oh shit, I just got stabbed.
Yeah.
So a lot of that.
Yes.
But very, and I thought they had just enough character development. You knew who people were. You understood that even the bad guys, there was a lot of family involved. And you kind of got like, they were all kind of caring about their family, even though, because they didn't expect a total bloodbath. They were going in there, taking jewelry and whatever.
Yeah. And we're just going to wave our machetes around and everybody's just going to give us their gold and we're going to be good.
Right. Oh, but we brought our psycho, the family member with us who we really can't count on, but he's good for the muscle. Oh, no, he's good for causing total havoc, which was what he did. So there we are. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really simple, lean movie, just very, tiny, like Melanie said, tiny set at the beginning, but pretty much this thing just kicks it right off. You do not have to wait. Just boom. And he did a great job. I thought it was really, really fun movie.
I've heard a lot of commentary about it. Sucha Malhotra from Film Companion was saying, every other director of Hindi action films is on notice now because this guy has upped the ante and everybody else is being shown up as just doing lazy filmmaking. And this guy delivered it's so much adrenaline. Suchin is right. Like, when I'm thinking about action, because you said, well, what about this? I'm like, that's Telugu. Like it might be, like Kalki had great action, but that was a Telugu director also doing scenes in Hindi. Okay. Right. But the style was not necessarily Bollywood style. So, I think you had mentioned before we started recording that the stunt team or the fight coordinators choreographed was done by the people who did Fighter and War. Yes. And I definitely felt like War is a film that was definitely also of this level. Maybe not. I mean, they took a breath for a couple of songs.
That's true. Yeah, we did have a moment.
But I do remember, like Tiger Shroff's opening scene, the nonstop action, and that is what this reminds me of. Although he had a whole big room to play with, they had a tiny little train.
But it was very grounded. Like, it was like mostly hand to hand with a few weapons here and there and a fire extinguisher. But mostly, it was like brute force, leaping, dodging, using your feet and hands and all. So they did a good job with that. And, that's what you want in a movie like this. So I really appreciated it. We have a quick poster. It pretty much tells you everything you know about this movie. That's pretty much the movie. Covered in blood.
Soaked in blood. That tells you all you need to know right there. Tells you this guy is a badass.
It's like, will he survive? Maybe. Maybe he does. I don't know. And that is actually someone to ask you. Did he? Because at the end we have a little scene, and it's probably left up to interpretation on purpose. I feel like, and this is a big spoiler ending, but when the train finally stops and he gets off, and he goes, and there you see all the emergency personnel behind him running. They're just ignoring him. They're just running onto the train. He goes and sits on a bench, and then the girlfriend's sitting there, and she's like holding his hand and looking at him, and says, what was the line? Something like, she said, do I have to die?
Yeah, do I have to die to be with you for the rest of my life? Or
right. And so then he's looking at her. I'm like, is that him dying? Is he seeing her? Like, was that his death scene? Because they seemed like they didn't even see him, and he was clearly injured. So I don't know. I kind of wondered. I mean, it could have just been the chaos, but it's probably purposely kind of like the end of John Wick was a little left up to interpretation. So
Yeah, Kathy, I think it's all going to depend on the box office.
I think that's it.
Okay, because he did not kill every single gang member, right?
True. Did he not?
There was the couple that jumped off the train, remember? And they kept going. So our psycho guy jumped back on the train, but okay.
Not a good idea. No, he just went around and
there were a couple that ran away, and if I know anything about Indian revenge movies, then now everybody's cousin is going to, so if Lakshya does live, there's a whole bunch of cousins and whatever that would be out for his blood. It could be one of those, okay, he was being, they were doing CPR or whatever, and he did die for a couple of minutes, and then he came back or whatever, right? Like, they can make that work to do a sequel if they wanted to.
That's right. He can wake up in a hospital bed.
The next time he's going to be on a plane, and then everybody's going to have to, I don't know.
I was thinking,
use the oxygen mask to strangle people. I don't know. Something's going to happen.
And there could be snakes. Oh wait, that's a different movie.
Okay.
But I think I was worried that too. Like, they're going to remake in America. Is it going to be on a train? Because trains aren't a huge deal in America. They have them and everything, but it's not the critical. But it could be they could be in Europe, or they could be
they could be in Europe. They could be on a bullet train in Japan or something like that.
Bullet Train. Oh, didn't they make a movie, Bullet Train? Was that Brad Pitt
I have not seen whatever the Brad Pitt one that was on a train. I have not yet.
We need to see that. Yeah, I guess we need to see that.
But
it'd be nice to compare it.
I mean, the whole, my dad's making me get engaged to another guy. I don't even know if they would bother with that setup.
No,
they could just have.
They could just be on vacation together.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't even necessarily have to do all of that kind of a setup. I mean, that set a certain expectation in the Indian audience that the people that are going to come after him with machetes are going to be her fiance's family, which
exactly.
I guess they could also go after him in a sequel. I don't know.
They could. He got her killed, kind of. Well, he didn't really get her killed, but she was in the way.
I don't know. So
I don't know. Interesting.
I am going to be. I agree with you. I'm going to be fascinated. What changes are they going to make? Because as far as except for maybe the first 15 minutes, an hour and 45 minutes of this movie wouldn't need to be changed in any way, right?
No.
So, and could be directly translated. So what we have heard is that the director of John Wick is producing the remake. And I, like I said, Lionsgate being the opening thing we saw at the beginning of this movie, I was like, whoa. Okay. Because as a big Hollywood, I'm like, whoa, so I think they saw this at Toronto and they wanted to buy the property to have it available for adaptation. And I think also Roadside Attractions, which I think is another one. Yeah. And then it was Dharma. I'm like, oh man, I haven't really seen that since. Remember when you and I watched Coup Surat? That was a Disney, when Disney was trying to dabble in Bollywood, and it was kind of wild to see the Disney castle at the beginning of that film.
That's right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's just really not often that you see a Hollywood production thing at the beginning in Hindi movies. So that was kind of fun. Cool. Anyway, so we will be watching. For our viewers, I mean, it's been out this weekend. Love to know, what did you think of this film? How does it, if you're used to normal Hindi blockbusters, were you disturbed that it was too violent? Did you think it was just violent enough? I mean, they certainly put it out there so you would know this. As I said in my review, do not bring your 3-year-old to this movie. Please, God.
Please don't. Please don't. Don't do it.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
definitely a movie for adults. Do not bring all the kids in the family. Maybe don't bring grandma, although if it's a,
It depends on the grandma.
some grandmas are into it. So I don't know.
Kind of into it. And there's truth in advertising. They're calling it the most violent film ever made, all that kind of stuff. So it's no surprise if you go in this movie and you go, "Oh, it was just too violent." No, it isn't. This is exactly what it needs to be. So there it is.
And do you? I mean, you've seen a lot of horror and whatever. Do you think this is the most? I mean, it's kind of nonstop, but is
Not
it
even
more,
close. Nope.
I mean, is it more violent than
No.
John Wick or anything?
No, it's
Come
not.
on.
It really
Come
isn't.
on.
And it's not even. It was gory, but I feel like it wasn't that gory. Like I wasn't too like, oh, I can't believe they showed that. I'm like, yeah, they showed just enough just to shock you a little bit. But I mean, a knife to the eye, yes, it's weird for a trailer, but not that unusual for any horror or gore films. It's like, but it was nonstop action.
It was not, we will say it was nonstop.
It was nonstop train to wherever it was going, and we were on board the whole time.
Yes.
There it is. All right. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment to Perday's Reviews. Make sure to subscribe and like to Cinemondo. Comment. We love to hear the comments. We read them. We want to know what you guys think. So we will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.